The Massacre. The morning sun cast golden light across New Angeles, the capital city of Harmony Prime. Children laughed as they ran through the parks while their parents watched from nearby benches. Street vendors sold fresh fruit from Earth, and the smell of coffee drifted from small cafes. It was a perfect day on humanity's first and most successful colony world. Sarah Kim adjusted her telescope on the observation deck of the Central Science Institute. She had been tracking unusual energy readings from the outer system for the past hour. The readings made no sense. They looked like massive ships, but the signatures were unlike anything in the Federation database. "Dr. Kim, are you seeing this?" Her assistant Marcus pointed at his screen with a trembling finger. "There are hundreds of them, maybe thousands." Sarah's blood turned cold as she studied the data. The ships were massive, each one larger than Earth's biggest space station. They were moving in perfect formation toward Harmony Prime and the other 9 human colonies scattered across nearby star systems. "Get me Admiral Harrison on emergency channel," Sarah commanded. Her voice stayed calm even though her heart raced. "Now." Across the galaxy, Admiral James Harrison stood on the bridge of the Federation monitoring station orbiting Centauri. He had been watching the same readings with growing alarm. The ships were Zephyrian Empire vessels, but they were far beyond their usual territory. More importantly, they were heading directly for human space. "Sir, incoming message from the Zephyrian fleet," his communications officer reported. "Put it through." The screen flickered and a tall reptilian figure appeared. His scales were deep blue, and his eyes glowed yellow in the dim light of his ship. This was Commander HFY, one of the Zephyrian Empire's most feared military leaders. "Admiral Harrison," HFY spoke in perfect English, his voice cold and emotionless. "I am transmitting terms for the immediate evacuation of all human colony worlds. You have 6 hours to remove your people." Harrison felt his stomach drop. "Commander, those worlds are home to 10 billion people. 6 hours is impossible." "What is the meaning of this action?" HFY's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "Your species has expanded too quickly. You have taken worlds that rightfully belong to older, more established races. This is a lesson in knowing your place in the galactic order." "The Galactic Federation will never allow this," Harrison said firmly. "Those colonies are protected under the New Species Integration Treaty." "The Federation is weak," HFY replied. "They care more about trade agreements than justice. By the time they respond, this matter will be settled." 6 hours, Admiral. Use them wisely." The screen went dark. Harrison immediately opened emergency channels to all human colonies and Earth Command. "This is Admiral Harrison with Code Black authorization. All colonies are under immediate threat. Begin emergency evacuation procedures now." On Harmony Prime, alarms began blaring across the planet. Governor Martinez appeared on every screen and speaker system across the world. "Citizens, this is not a drill. Unknown hostile forces are approaching our system. All civilians must report to evacuation centers immediately." But even as the words left his mouth, Martinez knew the truth. 10 billion people could not be evacuated in 6 hours. The transport ships simply did not exist. Even if they had a week, it would be nearly impossible. Dr. Sarah Kim watched from her observatory as panic spread through New Angeles. Traffic jammed the streets as people tried to reach the spaceports. Families carried whatever belongings they could manage. Children cried, not understanding why their parents looked so afraid. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked. Sarah checked her instruments again. "Maybe 5 hours before they reach us. The other colonies have even less time." Similar scenes played out across all 10 human worlds. On New Terra, farmers abandoned their fields and rushed toward the cities. On Haven, miners emerged from deep tunnels to find the sky filled with evacuation ships that could only carry a fraction of the population. On Prosperity, parents held their children close as they waited in lines that stretched for kilometers. Earth Command worked frantically to coordinate rescue efforts. Every available ship was dispatched toward the colonies, but Fleet Admiral Chen knew it was hopeless. They had perhaps 100 transport vessels capable of interstellar travel. Even working at maximum capacity, they could save maybe 1 million people. The math was brutal and unforgiving. President Williams sat in the Emergency Command Center deep beneath the United Nations building. Reports flooded in from across human space. The evacuation was proceeding, but at a pace that would save less than 1% of the colonial population. Options. Williams asked the assembled military leaders. The Third Fleet could intercept them. suggested Admiral Torres. We have 40 ships in the region. Fleet Admiral Chen shook her head.
40 ships against 1,000?
It would be suicide, and it wouldn't save the colonies. The Zephyrians have plasma cannons that can crack planets. Williams closed his eyes. In his 50 years of politics, he had never faced a decision like this. Send the Third Fleet anyway. Those people deserve to know we tried everything. The Third Fleet moved to intercept the Zephyrian armada near Harmony Prime. Captain Rodriguez, commanding the flagship Unity, opened communications with the enemy fleet one final time. Zephyrian vessels, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Terran Federation Navy. Withdraw from human space immediately or face the consequences. Thexhai appeared on screen again, this time looking amused. Captain, you have 40 ships. I have 1,000. Your weapons cannot penetrate our shields and your armor cannot stop our weapons. Withdraw now and you may live to carry word back to Earth. Negative, Rodriguez replied. These are our people, our worlds. We will not abandon them. Then you will die with them. The battle lasted 18 minutes. Human ships fought with desperate courage, but the technology gap was too great. Zephyrian plasma beams tore through human hulls like paper. One by one, the ships of the Third Fleet were destroyed. Captain Rodriguez went down with his ship, still firing weapons until the very end. With the human fleet eliminated, the Zephyrians moved into position around each colony world. Thexhai broadcast a final message to the planets below. Your 6 hours have expired. Your species will remember this day and learn humility. Dr. Sarah Kim stood on the observation deck of her institute, watching the massive Zephyrian ships take position in orbit. Around her, the evacuation continued, but most of the population remained on the surface. In the distance, she could see families huddled together in the parks, choosing to spend their final moments in the places they loved. At least it will be quick, Marcus said quietly. Sarah nodded. The Zephyrian planet killer weapons were designed to destabilize planetary cores. Death would come in seconds, not hours. Across human space, the same scene played out. On each world, people said goodbye to their loved ones. Some prayed. Others simply held each other. Parents told their children that everything would be okay, even knowing it was a lie. At exactly the 6-hour mark, the Zephyrian fleet fired. The weapons looked like bolts of purple lightning as they struck each planet's surface. Within seconds, the energy reached the planetary cores. The worlds that had taken humanity decades to terraform and centuries to populate died in brilliant flashes of light. 10 billion human lives ended in an instant. The few evacuation ships that had escaped carried word back to Earth. President Williams received the confirmation in his bunker beneath the UN building. 10 worlds, 10 billion people, all gone. The room fell silent as the magnitude of the loss sank in. Half of humanity's total population had been murdered in a single day. Williams stood slowly and walked to the communications console. He opened a channel to the Galactic Federation Council. This is Earth, he said, his voice hollow. We have received your message of condolence. We thank you for your concern. Earth is withdrawing from all galactic treaties and communications effective immediately. We will not be participating in Federation activities for the foreseeable future. President Williams, came the reply from Federation Chancellor Vextar. We understand your grief, but isolation is not the answer. The Federation will impose sanctions on the Zephyrian Empire. Justice will be served through proper channels. Williams almost laughed. Justice? Sanctions? 10 billion of my people are dead and you offer me economic penalties. He closed the channel and turned to his advisors. Gentlemen, prepare for a long silence. We have work to do. The awakening Earth went silent. For 3 months, no human ship left the solar system. No messages came from Earth Command. The few trade vessels that approached human space found empty patrol routes and automated warnings to stay away. To the galaxy, it seemed humanity was mourning its dead. They were wrong. In the depths of the Cheyenne Mountain complex, President Williams stood before a room filled with the most powerful people on Earth. Every nation was represented. Every military leader, every scientist, every industrialist who mattered sat in perfect silence as he spoke. 10 billion of our people are dead, Williams said. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. The galaxy has offered us sympathy and sanctions. They tell us to be patient, to work through proper channels, to trust in galactic justice. He paused and looked around the room. How many of you trust galactic justice? Not a single hand was raised. The Zephyrian Empire murdered our children and laughed about it. They called it a lesson in humility. They wanted to teach us our place. William stepped forward. I believe they have succeeded. We now know exactly where we stand in this galaxy. Director Sarah Chen of Global Intelligence stood up. She was a small woman, but everyone in the room knew her reputation. During the resource wars, she had broken 3 enemy spy networks and prevented 2 nuclear exchanges. Her mind was as sharp as any weapon humanity had ever built. The Zephyrians made one critical error, Chen said. They assume we think like them. Like all the other species in the Federation, they expect us to file complaints and wait for committees to meet. They think grief makes us weak. She activated a holographic display showing the Zephyrian Empire. Red dots marked their military bases, blue dots their colonies, yellow dots their industrial centers. They do not understand humans. Grief does not make us weak. It makes us dangerous. General Michael Torres, commander of the Global Defense Force, stood next. We have been preparing for this day since first contact. Not this exact scenario, but the possibility that we would be alone against hostile aliens. Every defense contractor, every black project, every contingency plan we developed assumes one thing. We cannot count on alien allies. He gestured to his aide, who activated another display. This one showed Earth and the inner solar system, but it looked different. Where there had once been mining stations and research outposts, now there were massive industrial complexes. The asteroid belt was covered with construction platforms. Jupiter's moons bristled with manufacturing facilities. For 60 years since first contact, we have maintained dual-purpose infrastructure. Every civilian facility can be converted to military production. Every trade ship can become a warship. Every mining operation can produce weapons-grade materials. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, director of the Global Technology Consortium, added her voice. We also have advantages they do not know about. The Federation shares certain technologies freely. Faster-than-light communication, basic energy shields, plasma weapons, but they keep their best technology secret. They do this to maintain their superiority. She smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. They never asked what technologies we keep secret. President Williams took control again. The Federation thinks we are a young species, primitive, barely evolved beyond our violent past. They are right about one thing. We are violent, but we are not primitive. He activated a final display. This one showed a single word, Operation Alien Extinction. The Zephyrian Empire has 14 major worlds, 43 minor colonies, and 200 military installations. They have a total population of approximately 6 billion individuals. Their military consists of roughly 2,000 ships of various classes. Williams looked around the room. We are going to kill every single one of them. The silence that followed was complete. Finally, Secretary of Defense Patricia Hayes spoke up. Mr. President, the Federation will intervene. They cannot allow one species to completely destroy another. The Federation had its chance to intervene, Williams replied. They chose sanctions. They chose committees and diplomatic protests. They chose to be weak. We choose to be strong. General Chen activated her personal communicator. Director Park, begin Phase 1 immediately. Across Earth, the transformation began. In Detroit, automotive plants retooled their assembly lines. Instead of civilian vehicles, they would now produce military transports. In Beijing, electronics manufacturers shifted to producing targeting systems and communications equipment. In São Paulo, chemical plants began producing explosives and fuel. But the real work was happening in space. For 3 months, the solar system had buzzed with activity hidden from galactic sensors. Automated mining ships stripped asteroids for raw materials. Construction platforms assembled ship hulls in the shadow of Saturn's rings. On the dark side of the moon, weapons laboratories tested devices that violated every galactic warfare convention. Admiral James Harrison, recalled from Federation service, now commanded the largest shipbuilding effort in human history. He stood in the control center of Armstrong Base, watching displays that showed construction progress across the system. How many? Asked Captain Torres, Harrison's former aide. 2,043 ships will be ready in 6 months, Harrison replied. They are not like Federation vessels. No diplomatic quarters, no scientific laboratories, no comfort facilities. Each ship has exactly 3 purposes: carry weapons, absorb damage, and kill enemies. Dr. Marcus Webb led the weapons development program. His team had studied captured Zephyrian technology and found its weaknesses. The Zephyrians relied heavily on energy shields that could deflect most conventional weapons. Their armor was designed to resist plasma and particle beams. "What about quantum phase torpedoes?" asked his assistant Lisa Park. Webb nodded. "The prototypes work perfectly. They ignore shields entirely and disrupt matter at the molecular level. The explosion turns solid matter into plasma, very effective against both ships and planets." "Are they legal under galactic warfare conventions?" Webb looked at her with surprise. "We are not part of the galactic community anymore. We are not bound by their conventions. Besides, what conventions did the Zephyrians follow when they murdered 10 billion civilians?" The weapons tests continued. Human engineers developed new types of armor that could absorb more damage. They created missile systems that could overwhelm defensive networks. They built ship designs that could ram enemy vessels and keep fighting. Most importantly, they created the quantum phase torpedoes. These weapons could destroy a planet just as effectively as Zephyrian planet killers. But they were smaller and easier to mass produce. General Chen stood in the recruitment center in New York, watching as volunteers lined up to join the fleet. The line stretched for blocks. These were not professional soldiers. They were teachers, farmers, doctors, students. They were people who had lost family and friends in the colonies. "What is your motivation for joining the fleet?" Chen asked one volunteer, a middle-aged woman named Susan Martinez. "My daughter was on Harmony Prime," Susan replied. She was 7 years old. She wanted to be a teacher. The Zephyrians turned her into atoms. "This mission will be dangerous. You may not survive." Susan looked at her with steady eyes. "I do not expect to survive. I expect to take as many of them with me as possible." Chen nodded and approved her application. This was the kind of motivation that would win wars. By the end of the 6th month, Earth's transformation was complete. The planet's entire industrial capacity had been converted to military production. 2,000 ships waited in hidden bases throughout the solar system. Each ship carried quantum phase torpedoes and crews who had sworn blood oaths of vengeance. President Williams stood on the observation deck of the command ship Retribution, looking out at the assembled fleet. These ships were ugly compared to Federation vessels. They were angular and brutal, covered in weapons and armor. They looked like what they were: instruments of war built by a species that had perfected the art of killing. "Admiral Harrison," Williams said, "begin the operation." Harrison activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every ship in the Armada. "Attention all vessels. We are about to begin Operation Alien Extinction. Our mission is simple: destroy the Zephyrian Empire completely. No ships escape. No colonies survive. No mercy is given." He paused. "They wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Today we teach them theirs. All ships jump to hyperspace. Target: Zephyrian space." 2,000 human warships disappeared from the solar system in flashes of blue light, carrying with them the concentrated rage of an entire species. Behind them, Earth continued its preparations. If this fleet failed, another would be ready. And another after that. Humanity had learned its place in the galaxy. They were alone. They were surrounded by enemies. And they were very, very angry. The preparation, the galaxy moved on. Federation news feeds briefly mentioned the human tragedy, calling it an unfortunate incident and a reminder of the need for diplomatic solutions. Trade continued. Diplomatic meetings proceeded. Life in the civilized galaxy returned to normal. The Zephyrian Empire celebrated. Commander Thexhai received promotions and honors for his decisive action against an upstart species. Zephyrian colonies expanded into the empty space where human worlds once existed. They took the remaining resources and divided the territory among themselves. The humans learned their lesson. Thexhai told his officers during a celebration on the capital world of Zephyr Prime. They have gone silent. They accept their place. This is how young species should behave when corrected by their betters. His officers raised their glasses in agreement. The destruction of 10 human worlds had sent a clear message to other species. Do not challenge the established order. But in a small observation post near human space, Federation monitor Kekvar noticed something strange. The monitoring station was supposed to track all traffic entering and leaving the Sol system. For months, the sensors had detected nothing. No ships left Earth. No communication signals were transmitted. This should have been normal for a grieving species, but Kekvar had studied human history. Humans did not respond to tragedy with silence. They responded with action. Computer, analyze energy readings from the Sol system over the past 6 months, HFY commanded. The computer displayed its findings. Energy consumption in the Sol system had increased by 400%. Industrial activity had expanded massively. Resource extraction from asteroid fields was occurring at unprecedented levels. Computer, compare these readings to known military buildup patterns. The computer paused for several seconds. Pattern matches 94% probability of major military industrial expansion. Warning: energy signatures suggest weapons testing and ship construction on massive scale. HFY felt his blood chill. He had served in the Federation military for 40 years. He knew what military preparation looked like. The humans were not mourning. They were building an army. He immediately sent a priority message to Federation Command. The response came back within hours. Report noted: humans are entitled to rebuild their defenses. No action required. HFY stared at the message in disbelief. The Federation Command did not understand. This was not defensive preparation. This was preparation for war. Meanwhile, in the depths of space near Jupiter, Dr. Marcus Webb completed final tests on humanity's secret weapon. The quantum phase torpedo had exceeded all expectations. In laboratory conditions, a single torpedo could destabilize the molecular structure of matter across a radius of 50 kilometers. Dr. Webb, his assistant Lisa, called from her monitoring station. "The planetary test is ready," Webb nodded. They had selected a dead world in the outer system for full-scale testing. The planet was roughly the size of Mars, with no atmosphere and no life. It would serve as a perfect target. The test ship Prometheus launched a single quantum phase torpedo from a distance of 1,000 kilometers. The weapon struck the planet's surface and penetrated to the core before detonating. The result was spectacular. Purple energy erupted from the impact point and spread across the planet's surface. Within minutes, the entire world was glowing as its matter broke down at the molecular level. Within an hour, what had been a solid planet was now a cloud of superheated plasma. "One torpedo," Webb said quietly. "One torpedo destroyed an entire world. Each human ship would carry 50 such weapons." Admiral Harrison supervised the final stages of fleet preparation from his command center on the dark side of the moon. Around him, technicians monitored the status of over 2,000 warships. Each ship was unique, built for specific roles in the coming battle. The destroyers were small and fast, designed to hunt down fleeing enemies. The cruisers carried heavy weapons for ship-to-ship combat. The dreadnoughts were massive vessels built to destroy space stations and orbital defenses. And the planet killers were specialized ships carrying nothing but quantum phase torpedoes. "Admiral," Captain Torres reported, "final crew assignments are complete. We have volunteers for every position on every ship." Harrison nodded. The response had been overwhelming. Millions of humans wanted to join the fleet. They had families to avenge and rage to satisfy. The selection process had been difficult, choosing the best candidates from so many volunteers. Each crew member had undergone 6 months of intensive training. They learned to operate in zero gravity, to fight in spacesuits, to repair damaged systems under combat conditions. More importantly, they learned to hate. "Show me the crew's psychological profiles," Harrison commanded. The display showed the mental state of the fleet personnel. Every single crew member showed elevated aggression levels. Many showed signs of controlled rage. All of them had lost someone in the colony attacks. "Sir," Torres said carefully, "the counselors are concerned about the psychological state of the crews. Some of them seem unstable." Harrison looked at him with cold eyes. "Captain, we are not sending these people on a diplomatic mission. We are sending them to commit genocide. Unstable is exactly what we need." In the weapons testing facilities, teams worked around the clock to perfect humanity's arsenal. The quantum phase torpedoes were the primary weapon, but they had developed others. Plasma cannons that could melt through any known armor. Kinetic weapons that fired tungsten rods at significant fractions of light speed. Missile systems that could overwhelm any point defense network. Most disturbing were the biological weapons. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had survived the destruction of Harmony Prime, led this program. She had studied Zephyrian biology and found their weaknesses. "The Zephyrian respiratory system is particularly vulnerable," she explained to the Weapons Development Committee. "Their homeworld has a unique atmospheric composition. A simple modification to common Earth bacteria can create an airborne pathogen that is harmless to humans but deadly to Zephyrians. General Chen studied the biological weapons data. How long would it take to kill their entire population? On a typical world, 6 to 8 weeks. The pathogen spreads through their air recycling systems. Every Zephyrian on the planet would be dead within 2 months. Chen approved the project immediately. They would use every weapon at their disposal. The psychological preparation was as important as the technological preparation. Every crew member attended daily briefings that reminded them why they were fighting. They watched recordings of the colony attacks. They studied the faces of the victims. They memorized the names of the dead children. Captain Sarah Martinez, commander of the destroyer Vengeance, addressed her crew during one such briefing. The Zephyrians think we are weak because we value life. They think compassion makes us vulnerable. They are about to learn the difference between compassion and weakness. She activated a holographic display showing the faces of human children who died in the attacks. These children will never grow up. They will never fall in love. They will never have families of their own. The Zephyrians took that from them. We are going to take everything from the Zephyrians. Her crew responded with voices filled with determination. Yes, Captain. As the fleet prepared for departure, Earth itself continued its transformation. Every military academy expanded to train more officers. Every university focused on military research. Every corporation retooled for weapons production. President Williams visited the construction yards where the next fleet was already taking shape. If Operation Alien Extinction failed, humanity would try again and again until every Zephyrian was dead. Mr. President, asked Director Chen, what if the Federation intervenes? What if they try to stop us? Williams looked at her with eyes that held no mercy. Then we will kill them too. The final preparations were completed in absolute secrecy. Federation monitoring stations detected increased activity in human space, but they interpreted it as defensive rebuilding. They could not imagine that a species which had lost half its population would immediately prepare for offensive war. They did not understand human nature. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the flagship, Retribution, reviewing final mission parameters. The fleet was ready. 2,000 ships, each crewed by humans who had nothing left to lose. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we are receiving final authorization from Earth Command. Harrison nodded. Open fleet-wide communications. His voice reached every ship in the Armada. Attention all vessels. In 15 minutes we will begin Operation Alien Extinction. Our target is the complete destruction of the Zephyrian Empire. Every ship, every station, every world, every last one of them. He paused, looking out at the fleet assembled around him. These ships were not beautiful. They were not elegant. They were tools of war built by a species that had learned to perfect violence. The Zephyrians wanted to teach us humility. They wanted us to know our place in the galaxy. They have succeeded. We know exactly where we stand. We stand alone. We stand angry. And we stand ready to show them what happens when you murder human children. The crew of every ship responded as one. For the 10 billion. Harrison checked his chronometer. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. Target coordinates confirmed. Operation Alien Extinction begins now. The hunt, the first Zephyrian outpost to detect the human fleet, was mining station Keth 47, located on the outer edge of their territory. Senior scanner Veltar was conducting routine monitoring when his instruments registered massive energy signatures approaching from human space. Computer, identify incoming contacts, Veltar commanded, assuming it was a Federation patrol or trading convoy. Unable to identify. Energy signatures unknown. Contact mass suggests major fleet formation. Estimated 2,000 vessels approaching at maximum hyperspace velocity. Veltar's scales turned pale. 2,000 ships? That was larger than most Federation battle groups. He opened emergency communications to Zephyrian Command. This is Mining Station Keth 47 to Fleet Command. Unknown fleet approaching from human space. Request immediate identification and orders. The response came from Admiral Zekthor, commander of the 7th Defense Fleet. Station Keth 47, you are mistaken. Humans do not possess a fleet of that size. Verify your readings. Readings confirmed, Admiral. 2,000 contacts approaching fast. Arrival in 6 hours. A long pause followed. Finally, Admiral Zekthor responded. Maintain position and observe. Report all developments immediately. 6 hours later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Keth-47 system. The sight that greeted Veltar's sensors defied everything he knew about human capabilities. The ships were massive, angular, and covered in weapon mounts. They moved in perfect formation, displaying a level of military precision that the Zephyrians had never seen from humans. Admiral Harrison's voice broadcast on all frequencies. Attention, Zephyrian forces. This is Admiral Harrison of the Human Extinction Fleet. You have been marked for elimination. Surrender is not an option. Mercy will not be given. Prepare to die. Veltar's hands shook as he activated the emergency beacon.
Fleet Command, this is Station Keth-47. The humans are here. They
call themselves an extinction fleet. Admiral, they are targeting our position. The mining station had no weapons and minimal shields. It was designed to process asteroids, not fight wars. As Veltar watched in horror, 50 human destroyers broke formation and accelerated toward his station. Fleet Command, request immediate evacuation. We have no defenses. Negative, Station Keth-47. Maintain position and gather intelligence. The Empire needs to know human capabilities. Veltar stared at his communicator in disbelief. They were ordering him to die for intelligence. He looked around at his crew of 200 Zephyrians, all of whom had families back on the home worlds. The human destroyers opened fire when they reached optimal range. Their weapons were unlike anything in the Zephyrian database. Purple beams of energy struck the station's hull and began eating through the metal like acid. Within minutes, the outer sections were disintegrating. By the great darkness, Veltar whispered. What kind of weapons are these? He had enough time to transmit one final message before the quantum phase torpedoes struck. Fleet Command, their weapons ignore our shields. They dissolve matter itself. The station is... Mining Station Keth-47 became a cloud of glowing plasma. Admiral Harrison watched the destruction from the Bridge of Retribution with satisfaction. Excellent. The quantum phase weapons perform as expected. Captain Torres signaled the fleet. Begin Phase 2. The human armada split into smaller battle groups, each targeting a different Zephyrian installation. Their intelligence was perfect, acquired through months of careful observation and infiltration. Every Zephyrian base, every patrol route, every supply depot was marked for destruction. Battle Group Alpha, led by Captain Sarah Martinez, approached the industrial complex at Vorhai. The facility produced weapons and ammunition for the Zephyrian military. It was defended by 12 warships and an orbital defense platform. Captain, her tactical officer reported, enemy vessels are moving to intercept. They are hailing us. Put them through. Commander Gethmar appeared on the screen, his blue scales showing the silver markings of a veteran officer. Human vessel, you are entering restricted Zephyrian space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Martinez looked at him with cold eyes. Commander, my name is Captain Sarah Martinez. 6 months ago, you murdered my daughter on Harmony Prime. Her name was Elena. She was 8 years old. She wanted to be a doctor. Gethmar's expression shifted to confusion. Captain, I do not understand. This is a military matter, not personal. Everything about this is personal, Martinez replied. Elena sends her regards. The human ships opened fire without warning. Their tactics were unlike anything the Zephyrians had encountered. Instead of formal battle lines and honorable combat, the humans fought like wild animals. They used ramming attacks, suicide runs, and coordinated swarm tactics that overwhelmed Zephyrian defenses. The destroyer Vengeance, Martinez's flagship, took severe damage from Zephyrian plasma cannons but continued fighting. When its weapons were destroyed, Martinez ordered a ramming attack on the enemy command ship. All hands prepare for impact, she announced.
For Elena.
For the 10 billion. The crew responded with voices full of rage. For the 10 billion. Vengeance struck Gethmar's ship at full velocity. Both vessels exploded in a brilliant flash, but the human sacrifice broke the enemy formation. The remaining human ships quickly destroyed the orbital platform and bombarded the industrial complex until nothing remained but molten metal. Similar battles erupted across Zephyrian space. At the mining colony of Terval, Commander Jake Morrison led an assault against a defended asteroid field. His ships moved through the asteroids like hunting wolves, using the cover to launch surprise attacks. Target the mining equipment first, Morrison ordered. Then the habitat domes. Leave the defense platforms for last. His tactical officer questioned the order. Sir, standard doctrine suggests eliminating the defenses first. Morrison turned to look at him. Son, we are not following standard doctrine. We are following human doctrine. Make them watch their homes burn before we kill them. The human ships systematically destroyed every civilian structure in the mining complex while the Zephyrian defenders watched helplessly. When the defenses finally fell, Morrison's ships hunted down the escape pods one by one. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving surrender signals from several pods. Ignore them, Morrison replied. No survivors. No witnesses. No mercy. Admiral Zekthor watched the reports flood in from across his territory. Human forces were attacking everywhere simultaneously. Their ships fought with a savagery that violated every rule of civilized warfare. They ignored surrender attempts. They killed prisoners. They destroyed civilian targets without hesitation. Admiral, his intelligence officer reported, we have analyzed the human weapons. They appear to use quantum phase technology to disrupt molecular bonds. This technology is banned under galactic warfare conventions. Zekthor laughed bitterly. I do not think the humans care about our conventions. How many ships have we lost? 43 ships destroyed, Admiral. The humans have lost only 12. 12 ships? How is that possible? They fight with no concern for their own survival, Admiral. They ram our ships when their weapons fail. They detonate their reactors next to our formations. They treat death as acceptable if it kills more of us. Zekthor had fought many battles in his career, but never against an enemy like this. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose, because they truly had nothing left to lose. Open communication to all human vessels, Zekthor commanded. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Zekthor could see the bridge of a human ship. It was functional and brutal, with no decorative elements. The crew looked like soldiers preparing for their own deaths. Admiral Harrison, Zekthor said. I am Admiral Zekthor of the 7th Defense Fleet. This slaughter serves no purpose. Surely we can negotiate a settlement. Harrison studied him with eyes that held no emotion. Admiral, 6 months ago your people murdered 10 billion human civilians, men, women, and children who had never harmed anyone. You called it a lesson in humility. That was a political decision made by others, Zekthor protested. I was not involved in that action. You wear the uniform, Harrison replied. You serve the Empire. You are complicit. There will be no negotiation. There will be no settlement. There will only be extinction. The Federation will intervene. They cannot allow genocide. Harrison smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. The Federation had 6 months to act. They chose sanctions and committees. We choose bullets and bombs. End transmission. The screen went dark. Admiral Zekthor stared at the blank screen, finally understanding the magnitude of what his empire had unleashed. The humans were not seeking territory or resources. They were seeking vengeance. Complete, absolute vengeance. Across Zephyrian space, the hunt continued. Human battle groups struck military bases, supply convoys, and industrial facilities with ruthless efficiency. No target was too small. No installation was left standing. They methodically dismantled the infrastructure that supported the Zephyrian Empire, but the humans were just getting started. The real assault would begin when they reached the core worlds where 6 billion Zephyrians lived in cities and towns. Unaware that death was approaching from the void between the stars, Captain Morrison completed his mission at Terval and received new orders. Emperor Thraknel of the Zephyrian Empire stood in his throne room on Zephyr Prime, watching displays that showed the systematic destruction of his civilization. In 3 weeks, the human fleet had eliminated 60% of his military forces and destroyed 37 colonies. The reports painted a picture of total warfare unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. Your Majesty, Admiral Zekthor reported via emergency transmission, the humans have reached our core territories. They are approaching Kethvar and Mordai. We must evacuate the civilian populations immediately. Emperor Thraknal's scales darkened with rage. Evacuate? We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not flee from inferior species. Your Majesty, with respect, these humans are not inferior. They fight with weapons that ignore our shields. They show no mercy to civilians. They refuse all attempts at communication or negotiation. Then we will crush them with superior numbers. Deploy the Grand Fleet. Admiral Zekthor hesitated. Your Majesty, the Grand Fleet consists of 800 ships. The humans have already destroyed 500 of our vessels and lost fewer than 50 of their own. The mathematics are not in our favor. I do not care about mathematics, Thracknell roared. I care about the honor of the Empire. Deploy the Grand Fleet and end this humiliation. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison's battle group approached the colony world of Kethvar. The planet was home to 2 million Zephyrians living in peaceful cities and agricultural settlements. It had minimal military defenses, designed more for protection against pirates than invasion fleets. Captain, his intelligence officer reported, we are detecting massive civilian population centers across the planet, approximately 2 million non-combatants. Morrison nodded. Are there any military installations? A small orbital defense platform and a ground-based command center. Maybe 200 military personnel total. Then we eliminate the military targets first, then proceed with planetary bombardment. His tactical officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, planetary bombardment of civilian targets violates numerous galactic conventions. Morrison turned to face him with eyes like ice. Lieutenant, what conventions did the Zephyrians follow when they murdered 10 billion of our civilians? Did they worry about galactic law when they turned human children into atoms? The lieutenant fell silent. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. We are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Put it through. The screen showed a Zephyrian female in civilian clothing. Behind her, Morrison could see what appeared to be a school with young Zephyrians playing in the background. Human Commander, she said, her voice shaking. I am Minister Calavan of Kethvar Colony. We are a peaceful settlement with no military significance. We have families here, children. Please, surely we can reach some understanding. Morrison studied her for a long moment. Minister, my name is Captain Jake Morrison. 6 months ago, your empire destroyed 10 human worlds. Did you speak out against that action? I was not involved in those decisions. I am just a colonial administrator. Did you protest? Did you demand justice for the murdered children? Did you resign your position in objection to your government's actions? Minister Calavan looked down. No, I did not. Then you are complicit, Morrison said quietly. You represent a government that commits genocide and calls it a lesson in humility. There is no understanding to be reached. But the children, she pleaded. Surely you would not harm children. Morrison's expression never changed. Your empire already answered that question when they turned human children into plasma. You established the rules of this conflict. We are simply following them. He closed the communication channel and turned to his weapons officer. Begin bombardment. Target population centers first. The quantum phase torpedoes struck Kethvar like purple lightning. The first wave targeted the major cities, disintegrating buildings and turning millions of Zephyrians into superheated gas. The second wave hit the agricultural settlements and smaller towns. Within 6 hours, the planet's surface was a glowing wasteland. Similar scenes played out across the Zephyrian Empire. Human battle groups struck world after world with methodical precision. They ignored surrender attempts, rejected peace offerings, and killed every Zephyrian they encountered. The galactic community finally began to take notice. Federation Chancellor Vextar called an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The situation has escalated beyond acceptable parameters, Vextar announced to the assembled representatives. The humans are conducting systematic genocide against the Zephyrian Empire. We must intervene immediately. Ambassador Koltar of the Centauri Republic raised a tentacle. Chancellor, where was this concern when the Zephyrians committed genocide against human civilians? The Federation's response was economic sanctions. That was different, protested Ambassador Yilha of the Vegan Confederation. The Zephyrians were making a political statement about territorial expansion. This is pure revenge. And the difference matters why? Asked Ambassador Zarketh of the Rigel Alliance. Dead children are dead children regardless of the politics behind their murder. Chancellor Vextar tried to maintain order. We must send a fleet to stop the humans before they destroy the entire Zephyrian species. With what authority? Ambassador Koltar demanded. Earth withdrew from all galactic treaties. They are not bound by our laws or conventions, and frankly, after watching our response to the human genocide, I question whether we have the moral authority to intervene. The debate continued for hours while human ships continued their systematic destruction of Zephyrian civilization. Emperor Thracknell received the final reports in his throne room. Of the 43 major Zephyrian worlds, only 7 remained intact. The Empire's military had been reduced to fewer than 300 ships, mostly older vessels unfit for serious combat. "Your Majesty," his chief advisor said quietly, "perhaps it is time to consider surrender." Thraknal struck him down with a backhand that sent the advisor sprawling. "The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to inferior species. We will fight to the last ship, the last soldier, the last breath." "Your Majesty," Admiral Zekthor's voice came through the communicator. "The humans are approaching Zephyr Prime. They have transmitted a final message for you." "Put it through." Admiral Harrison appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship showed battle damage from weeks of fighting, but the crew's determination was unshakable. "Emperor Thraknal," Harrison said formally, "I am Admiral James Harrison of the Human Extinction Fleet. Your empire is finished. 6 billion of your people are dead. Your military is destroyed. Your colonies are ash. You have one final choice." Thraknal raised himself to full height. "Speak your terms, human." "There are no terms," Harrison replied. "This is not a negotiation. This is notification. You wanted to teach humanity our place in the galaxy. You succeeded. Our place is as the species that destroys anyone who murders our children. Your species ends today. The Federation will stop you." Harrison's expression never changed. The Federation had their chance. They chose committees and sanctions. "We chose quantum phase torpedoes and nuclear fire. Your world will burn, your people will die, and your empire will be forgotten. You cannot do this. It is genocide." "Yes," Harrison agreed calmly. "It is genocide. Exactly like what you did to us. The difference is that we will finish what you started." The screen went dark. Emperor Thraknal looked around his throne room at the advisors and guards who had served him faithfully for decades. Many of them had families in the cities below. All of them would be dead within hours. "Your Majesty," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving surrender signals from our remaining fleet. They are asking for terms." "Tell them there are no terms," Thraknal replied. "The humans want extinction. Let us show them how Zephyrians die." The final battle was brief and one-sided. The remnants of the Zephyrian Grand Fleet, fewer than 300 ships, faced 2,000 human vessels in orbit around Zephyr Prime. The Zephyrians fought with desperate courage, but courage could not overcome the technology gap and numerical disadvantage. Admiral Zekthor commanded the final charge from his flagship Eternal Glory. As quantum phase torpedoes tore through his ship's hull, he transmitted a final message to his emperor. "Your Majesty, we have failed." "The humans, they fight like demons. They accept any loss if it means killing more of us. I have never seen anything like it. Tell my family. Tell them I died with honor." Eternal Glory exploded in a brilliant flash, taking Admiral Zekthor and his crew into the darkness. With the orbital defenses eliminated, Admiral Harrison gave the order for planetary bombardment. All ships commence final phase. Target the capital city first, then work outward. No structures remain standing. No population centers survive. Emperor Thraknal stood on his palace balcony, watching purple fire fall from the sky. The city around him began to disintegrate as quantum phase weapons turned matter into energy. In the distance, he could see his people fleeing in panic, but there was nowhere to run. His personal communicator activated one final time. A child's voice came through, frightened and confused. "Grandfather Emperor, why is the sky burning? Where are my parents?"